After a rich kid lost his memory, he wouldn't stop chasing me. I played the role of Frank's girlfriend for 3 years, only to realize I caught real feelings. Right when I was about to tell him I was pregnant, I overheard the senior who bullied me say to him, "Frank, thanks for pretending to lose your memory to get back at Monica for me. You've pranked her 99 times. Once it's 100, I'll date you." That's when I found out Vivian was Frank's first love that he couldn't have. And I was just a fool used to make her happy. Later, I died in a plane crash. Frank went crazy sifting through the wreckage, only finding a ring that said, "The 100th prank, I bet you love me." Rumors say Frank cried until he passed out and ended up in the hospital. When he woke up, he turned against everyone who pranked me. Meanwhile, I was in France, burning my medical records with a smile. His fake amnesia cheated my heart, so I taught him a lesson by faking my death. Separated by a wall. Vivian's voice was upbeat. "Frank, we cleared prank level 96. Frank sounded sarcastic. "Vivian, is this fun for you?" "For getting back at her, of course." "Who told Monica to steal your award and game design prize?" Frank's buddies teased, "When you hit 100, Frank can officially announce you guys." The blood in me froze. Honestly, Frank's got skills. He came up with pretending to have amnesia just to prank Monica. The first time, he had her in the rain looking for a bracelet, then gave it to Vivian. Her face was priceless. My nails dug into my palm. That was my mom's deathbed gift, a Hetian jade bracelet. Frank claimed he lost it when moving. I searched for 7 hours in a storm, catching a 104-degree fever. They laughed so hard at her defense presentation. Frank told her he got drunk at a bar and got into a fight. Monica rushed there, only to find it was all a lie. I had to drop my preparations, ending up postponing my degree. Vivian giggled, and when we folded her game design plans into paper airplanes? She spent all night picking them up, looking like a stray dog. Frank coolly added, "What's next? How about telling her you were rushed to the hospital while we're at a party making her wait?" Frank sent me a text, "Emergency room, come quick." Afraid they'd spot me, I left immediately. But 2 minutes later, Frank unsent it, maybe regretting lying. I acted like I never saw it, didn't reply. I had predicted all this. When Frank was showering, I accidentally saw encrypted videos on his phone, titled Game Progress, 96 of them, matching the number of pranks on me. The password was Vivian's birthday, December 24th. He'd claimed it was the day he first saw me. Last year, on that day, I waited in the snow for 3 hours for him at Christmas Eve. But he was at a villa crowning her with a birthday tiara till late. Carefully, he wrapped a scarf around my neck, cherishing it immensely. An ache hit me, so I opened Instagram. There, at the top of the chats, he reported prank progress to Vivian daily. Told her I'm working late, but really took you to Disneyland. She waited till 3 a.m. Told her the contest time was 2 hours later. Seeing her run in pajamas was hilarious. The last message was on the reunion day. When Vivian accidentally spilled hot coffee, Frank reflexively protected me. But the chat read, "Even touching her grosses me out, I sanitized 3 times." I called my dad, saying I wanted to move to Paris with him. When Mom died 5 years ago, he's been living at their special place. I stayed for Frank, turning down the chance to study abroad, hardly seeing my dad. I fooled myself thinking Frank would warm up and bring spring, forgetting thawed ice leaves frostbite. My relentless love was just his prank game, and I am the clown used to woo his first love. Hearing me out, my dad was delighted. "Honey, I'm glad you get it now." I fought back tears, agreeing. "Dad, when I leave, stage a plane crash for me." Confused, but he agreed. The plane crash was my parting gift to Frank. Monica, this name will haunt him forever. I deleted every photo of us and, while packing, found a leather journal in Frank's safe. Its green cover bore the initial logo for the game X Mystery. I designed it after 36 all-nighters. Frank had printed it there, collecting all my designs, wishing me success. On the 7th page, I was struck. Beside a photo of me coding with glasses was a sticky note. Today, she yelled at me like a grumpy cat for the new plan. It's 10 times better now, such a cute genius. Turns out, whenever I stayed up working, Frank was there, massaging and making noodles. He'd run out for cake or prepare ginger tea and warm packs during my times of the month. He called it a prank love game, yet he was deep in it, too. On the last page was a Valentine's Day ticket stub. His strong handwriting filled the gaps. Even if I had to choose again, I'd still pretend to lose my ticket to spend all night reworking the plan with her. That was prank 72 for Vivian. Rain pounded against the window. All that fake love cracked by self-deception. Maybe he loved me, but his heart belonged to Vivian. I was just a tool. Hands shaking, I booked an abortion. That night, I lay in bed, pretending to sleep as Frank tiptoed back home, the cold clinging to him. No sound followed, he seemed to pause. Puzzled, I wondered why he skipped over this prank when I didn't play along. He must have lost face with Vivian and the boys. The bed sank as he hugged me tightly from behind. Frank rested his head on my neck like a tired bird returning to its nest, his warm breath full of joy. We're having a baby, Little Moon. Little Moon is his nickname for me. He says I'm like the moon, shining only for him, plus it's similar to my actual name. But I know, behind my back, he's told Vivian and the others that I'm fake classy, saying Little Moon is just something he made up to toy with me. It was all about watching me fall in love and lose my dignity. I stayed silent because he still didn't know I had decided not to keep this child. Frank seemed oblivious as he pulled out my pregnancy test results. He drew 3 little hearts with a fountain pen, a pen I bought him with my first paycheck. He's carried it with him everywhere for years. I didn't respond. Frank hugged me tighter, whispering sweet words, but my heart felt frozen like it was stuck in a winter chill, unable to thaw. I said I was tired and wanted to sleep. He nodded and said, "We'll go to Vivian's birthday party tomorrow," then quickly fell asleep. But I lay awake all night. Frank set up a memory loss situation, and I poured 3 years of genuine feelings into it. Now, I was planning a fake death act, leaving him with a lifetime of regret. At the birthday party, Frank's friends surrounded me in the booth, pushing the biggest piece of cake towards me. "Monica, Frank says he loves watching you eat sweets." Frank avoided my gaze, pretending not to notice. As soon as the cake touched my tongue, there was a bitterness, a surge of nausea. But Vivian held me down, forcing more cake into my mouth. "Monica, it's my birthday, don't be rude." "What, do you find me disgusting?" My stomach immediately cramped painfully. Frank's friends laughed and taunted, turning my humiliation into a game. After finishing the cake, I rushed to the bathroom and threw up violently. The laughter from the booth confirmed their satisfaction at the successful prank. "Is your gastroenteritis still not better?" Frank offered me a cup of water with mint leaves. It was a remedy he taught me when we first met to stop nausea. I couldn't acknowledge his hypocritical concern because the sharp stomach pain felt like thousands of needles stabbing at once. I looked down to see blood slowly pooling around my legs, shocking and terrifying. Gripping Frank's arm tightly, I said, "Take me to the hospital." Vivian blocked the door, laughing. "It's just irregular periods, it's common for girls." "Frank, don't overreact. Move." Frank snapped, yelling for the first time at Vivian. When I woke up, I heard Vivian criticizing Frank's friends outside the room. "Did you add too much hallucinogen? Weren't you just supposed to embarrass her?" The friend chuckled. "Getting rid of a burden of a bastard child is a bonus. Frank should be grateful to me." Yeah, 3 years in, if she had his kid, how could he dump Monica? Frank was silent before speaking. "A prank is a prank, but don't touch her body." Vivian was briefly surprised before angrily saying, "Who said you should knock this bookworm down a notch for me? Who suggested making Monica look bad as a birthday gift? Are you in love with her or what?" Frank quickly denied it. "No way. I only love you." The laughter outside resumed, celebrating the 98th prank's end and plotting the 99th. I touched my flat stomach that still ached. The baby and I were just part of their game, a gift for Vivian. Wiping away tears, with shaking fingers, I cancelled the abortion. No need for my decision, my baby's fate was sealed by her father. Just as I tried to call my dad, Frank entered. I shut my eyes and pretended to sleep. I heard him say in a raspy, guilty voice, "Monica, I'm sorry." The reason was obvious. After I was well enough to leave the hospital, Frank said his friends and Vivian wanted to apologize and invited me to hike up Checkerboard Mountain, where a temple could bless our lost child. I knew this might be another prank, but thinking of the baby stirred sadness. After this, I'd be going to France. I could say goodbye to my baby one last time. On the way, they all laughed and catered to Vivian, ignoring me entirely. Passing the wishing tree, Frank bought a blessing card, and we wrote one for our child together. Vivian stood by, smiling sweetly. "Monica, you'd make a wonderful mom." I ignored her insincerity. There weren't many slots left on the tree. As I leaned out past the fence to hang our card, someone shoved me hard from behind. Caught off guard, I fell forward, tumbling down the steep slope. Pain instantly surged through me, reaching deep inside. Seriously injured and unable to move, I blacked out. Half awake, I felt Frank carrying me, eyes red, saying, "Little Moon, don't be scared. I'll get you to the hospital." "Why?" I asked quietly, tears blurring my vision. Why do this to me? Though the wound was external, it felt like my heart was in pieces. Frank's eyes were filled with guilt and fear. I didn't know they'd do this. I really didn't. Then I lost consciousness again, submerged in darkness. When I came to, my right leg was encased in a thick cast. The doctor said I might have lasting damage. Lying there, tears silently fell. Frank sat beside the bed, looking worn out, pain visible on his face, eyes filled with regret and sorrow. He drew a tiny moon on the cast and said gently, "Little Moon, I'll stay with you until you recover." I closed my eyes. Frank tucked the blanket around me softly, careful not to disturb my rest. He busied himself gathering hospital essentials, running back and forth countless times, seeming the most attentive boyfriend. Yet, he was the one who brought me here, the cause of all my suffering. Pretending to sleep, my heart raced, throbbing with pain. Frank stayed awake all night at my side. He'd kiss the little moon on the cast now and then, tears streaming down, gripping my hand tight like I'd disappear if he let go. "I'm so sorry, little moon. This is all my fault. I shouldn't have listened to them, shouldn't have hurt you. At least I've got another chance. I won't hurt you again. You mean everything, little moon. I almost lost you." "I'm so sorry," he whispered, voice choking, watching over me all night. I knew he was hurting because I got injured. "Last time," he told Vivian and them, "just pranking, don't touch her." I felt a bit soft-hearted but also realized how ridiculous I was. Frank's rule? Always Vivian. This was prank number 99, and I was still the toy to make her happy, with Frank agreeing once more. Who can say he won't be an accomplice again the 100th time? The next day, while Frank was out getting breakfast, I called Dad to send security to pick me up, getting the plane crash plan ready. While I waited, Vivian showed up, all smiles like she'd won. "Monica, breaking your leg was part of my plans. This is prank number 99. I kept calm, glaring at her in hatred. Vivian looked me over from head to toe, then adjusted her luxury brand wrap. "The 100th is during the competition. You'll be accused of copying. I have all your Game X mystery backups, thanks to Frank. He's already bribed the committee. Your submission will always be 3 minutes after mine. You're gonna be nailed to the wall of shame. I've been prepping for the most prestigious game design contest back home for 2 years, and here you are with X Mysteries files on my computer." I snapped, slapping her. "Steal my stuff and I'm my boyfriend? Vivian, you're forever using hand-me-downs, don't you find it filthy?" Her brows shot up as she grabbed my wrist, going to slap me back. You're the one using second hand now. But the slap never landed. What are you doing, Vivian? Frank was back, and with him were the bodyguards Dad sent. He, unusually, got mad at Vivian. But, understanding he had one last prank love game to do, she left, embarrassed and without a word. Before Frank could explain, the bodyguards brought a wheelchair to take me away. He sensed something was off, held the wheelchair, worried. Little Moon, what are you doing? I looked down, saying, going to France for recovery. Dad's worried sick. Frank protested, saying he didn't want me to leave. But I insisted, saying my folks wanted to see me, and he reluctantly agreed. Then, all eager like, he booked a ticket for the next day right in front of me, saying he'd come for me later and asking my flight details. I paused, telling him it was MU-5882. He even offered to see me off, but his phone rang suddenly. It was his buddy Eric. Frank, hurry. She fell down the stairs. Frank dashed out without a word, no goodbye, no explanation about Monica. Bitter, I told the bodyguard, let's go. Airport. They had everything ready and promised the perfect plane crash scene. At the boarding gate, the screen flickered CA 1621. I nodded, getting on the flight to France. 12:24. Frank said it was the day we first met. Whether true or not, I chose this moment so he'd remember me forever. Remember, I died in his prank game, regret gnawing at him for life. Seconds before the crash, I sent Frank one last text. Frank, your 100th prank, I'll stake my life on it. My phone blew up instantly, with calls and messages pouring in. The MU-5882 crash was complete. One last look at the phone revealed Vivian's secret Facebook. Frank wants to play a prank video compilation at our wedding. Some people's tear-stained faces make the perfect prologue. The picture was of Frank's neat row of 99 voice recorders in a safe at the Cloud Top apartment. Seeing all of Frank's desperate calls, I smiled and pulled out the SIM card. He had no idea about the crash, only that I found out about his prank game. Doubt, anger, panic? None of it mattered. Dad said getting a private plane off radar is like wiping fingerprints from a wedding photo. Told me not to worry. And now, I vanished from Frank's life for good. When Frank heard about the crash, he rushed to the scene without a second thought. Bare-handed, he clawed at the smoky wreckage, his custom suit slashed by metal. Firefighters backed off, intimidated by his bloodshot eyes. My fiancée was on board. She wore the moon necklace I gave her today. Then, a tall, unknown man approached, landing a punch before Frank could react. He crumbled to the ground, too weary to fight back, just desperate to find a familiar face. Emma's ashes are to be buried in Paris, with her mom. You can't clear your guilt. It was Dad's assistant. Frank's legs buckled as he collapsed in the debris. That's when a ring caught his eye. Hands trembling, he picked up the one we chose together at the jewelry shop. But inside it read, 100 pranks, I bet you love me. A line I engraved later on. Frank looked like he'd been struck, shaking violently. He finally realized I knew all along, and that he'd hurt me repeatedly, allowing Vivian and all his so-called buddies to trample and humiliate me. Amid the prank love game, Frank fell for me, but deceived himself, pretending he still loved Vivian. Fearful of losing face in front of Vivian and his friends, he didn't dare acknowledge his feelings. With prank 100 on the horizon, he assumed I wouldn't know. He believed he could conveniently overlook everything, continuing to play the good boyfriend, knowing my unwavering devotion wouldn't change. But he didn't expect me to find out and keep playing along with his act. At this moment, Frank's heart finally feels what I'm going through. We've been together for 3 years. He always stands on my left, so close to my heart yet always feels like there's a galaxy between us, neither warm nor cold. Now he finally understands the pain I've been enduring. My career was ruined, I had to delay my studies, injured my leg, had a miscarriage, lost competitions, and was deceived by my lover. In every instance where he had to choose, none of this mattered as much as one word from Vivian. Frank fell to his knees among the plane wreckage, devastated, crying until he almost passed out and was found by kind staff who took him to the hospital. Vivian looked at Frank in his zombie-like state and was a bit dissatisfied. 100 pranks exactly, let's make it official, Frank. Frank didn't react. Using a dead person's design for a competition. She shook a USB drive with a pleased smile, asking if Frank wanted to be an award presenter. Frank's face froze, turning cold, and he suddenly rushed over, slapping her hard and slammed her against the floor-to-ceiling window. I won't be with you. If you touch her stuff again, I'll make sure you spend your 25th birthday in jail. Vivian, this is a fight to the death. Vivian held her face in anger, asking if he was crazy. She's dead, why are you so worked up over her? Don't forget you pulled pranks on her for my sake. Frank's buddies chimed in, yeah, she's finally gone, Frank can move on now. Too bad we missed one last chance to see her embarrassed. I was actually planning to have someone pour filth on her at the design contest. Frank shouted, shut up. If it wasn't for your prank games, Monica wouldn't have died. His friends exchanged glances and then burst into laughter. You're the one who wanted to prank her, you're the one who killed her, you're the murderer, okay? Why pretend to be so devoted? Aren't you the one who added laxatives to her brown sugar water and made her miss her defense? Before he could finish, Frank tackled him to the ground, and a brawl broke out. Eventually, Frank was exhausted and injured, ending up in the ER. The last news about Frank that my dad's assistant brought was, he's fallen out with everyone, often self-harms, constantly muttering sorry to his fiancée, and frequently visits psych wards. He even set up a gravestone for me at the Beijing cemetery and regularly visits, having the logo of the game we designed together carved on his chest. Everyone in the Beijing circle knows Frank can't forget his first love who died in a plane crash. I chuckled and continued receiving France's most advanced treatment for my leg injury. 2 years later, I set up a game studio in France and finished the fantasy game I originally designed, X Mystery. I submitted it to an international game design competition under the name Emma. Thanks to its mythological and fantasy elements, the main style suited the Western market, and its solid quality won the gold medal, creating a huge buzz domestically. It's the first time a female game designer has won the gold medal in this competition. The game's auction price skyrocketed to millions, and the studio was flooded with business offers daily. The auction is set for 3 days later. My dad asked if I was worried about making such a big splash, and getting Frank's attention. They say he's now called the widow crazy, and no one can mention Monica in front of him. I brushed it off, laughing, it's been 2 years. He's the one trapped in shadows, not me, I'm not afraid of anyone now. Dad looked at my now walking legs and nodded, if Frank comes to harm you, I'll take care of him. X Mystery is based on sketches I drew in front of him, a design he's completely aware of. With it winning international gold, it's impossible he hasn't heard or suspected something. He just never expected the plane crash was my fake death. But with the right hints, it's easy to investigate. The day after the international game competition announced the gold medal, Frank showed up at my studio. He looked shockingly thin, his suit hanging loose on his shoulders, a tattoo on his collarbone peeking out from his shirt, wearing the prank ring I left on the plane. His expression, hardened by years of gloom, softened, and his coldness switched to warmth the instant he saw me. Little Moon. He spoke softly, voice raspy, congratulations on winning the international competition. Hearing my old nickname from him only made me feel sick. Frank raised the dark green journal as if it were a treasure, offering a clumsy smile. Congratulations, your dream came true. He wished to use our filled past journal to win me back, but I had long discovered Vivian's prank instructions in it. It was no personal love diary to me. With a steely face, I said coldly, did Frank come to award the trophy personally? Sadly, a person who's died once can't accept the blessings of the living. But Frank ignored the jab, overjoyed that I was still alive, his emotions cracking, tears falling, voice trembling. It's so great to know you're alive, I thought I'd lost you forever. He pulled out the Hatian jade necklace my mom had left me. He once used a prank to toss it and gave it to Vivian. Little Moon, I'm returning it. I was wrong. Every day these past 2 years I've lived in pain and regret. I hate myself for all the harm I caused you before. Can you? His sleeves slipped up his arms, revealing countless shocking scars, all knife wounds. I felt a prick of pain but didn't buy into his fake sincerity, reaching for my mother's keepsake. No. I cut him off coldly. The Monica who loved you is dead, dead in that plane crash 2 years ago. 100 pranks, miscarriage, leg injury. Do you know how many surgeries it took for me to walk again? Why don't you just die, Frank? I lifted my dress, exposing the cold metallic joints of my prosthetic. The scars from surgery wrapped around muscles, shrunken and ugly. It's all your fault. Frank froze in place, stunned, his eyes bloodshot, filled with heartache. I used to desperately wish he'd be more committed, show me just a little more love in our prank games. But none of that happened. Frank tightened his grip on my hand and then, hearing my words, immediately fell to his knees in front of me, looking like a pitiful abandoned puppy, begging. I know I'm damned, but if fate brought us together again, it means we're not done yet. Please, give me another chance, Monica, my little moon. He tried to hug my legs, while I shuddered, feeling sick. Let me go. Frank, you lunatic. Who are you? Get lost. A tall man rushed over and kicked Frank. Having been in a mentally unhealthy state for so long, he almost instantly collapsed, falling to the ground. I took the opportunity to reclaim my necklace. Jack stood in front of me, asking if I was hurt. I shook my head. He's a game designer from Germany that I hired with a high salary. And Frank, with a bitter face, looked as if abandoned, crawling toward me in despair. Who is he? Did you fall for him? Monica, you can't treat me like this. I can't live without you. What do I have to do for you to forgive me? Jack gave him another hard kick, saying, You're a threat to our boss. I'm calling the cops. Frank couldn't move, coughing in pain, his face covered with dirt and tear stains, looking utterly defeated. I coldly said, Whoever it is, it's none of your business. Forgive you? Only if you die. With Jack's help, I walked back to the studio, catching a glimpse of Frank's eyes filled with pain, invisibility, and indifference. They were just like mine 2 years ago. The next day, while prepping for the X mystery game auction, I suddenly got a call from a Paris hospital. Frank had slashed his own leg, and when the medics arrived, he was lying in a pool of blood, smiling, mumbling that this way I'd forgive him. The hospital staff said Frank only asked for me, saying he won't accept treatment unless I show up. He's still bleeding out. But I just can't forgive him easily. It would be betraying myself from 2 years ago, deceived and pranked 100 times. I politely declined. I don't know this Frank guy. If he refuses treatment, you can contact a funeral home for him. Immediately, I heard Frank's trembling plea over the phone. Little Moon, my leg hurts so much, I feel like I'm dying. Please, can you come see me? Just one look, I had meant so much to you. Nauseated, I hung up. The old Monica would drop everything at a hint of Frank's news and rush over. But each time I arrived, it was either empty or a mockery from Vivian and her friends. Monica, you're like Frank's puppy, he beckons, and you come running. Monica, you're such a disgrace, chasing after love this pathetically, throwing yourself at him. I really look down on you. I composed myself, stepping out of the darkness of the past to prepare for the X mystery auction the next day. This time, I am determined to succeed. In the early morning before the game auction, Vivian released a pile of handwritten drafts and programming materials on her Facebook, including the game's initial framework, dated 2 years ago. She used this to accuse me of plagiarizing her original game. Back then, she had orchestrated 99 prank games and was dumped by Frank. She's had a miserable last 2 years, thanks to Frank targeting her family business. With me as the supposed culprit suddenly back, her anger was understandable. But I could tell at a glance, those were the game designs Frank stole from my computer and gave to Vivian. On the day I faked my death, she had praised to me how this would win a game award. And with Frank covering her, she'd win while I'd be the plagiarist submitting 3 minutes later. Later, due to recovering, I didn't participate in the game, and neither did Vivian, out of fear of Frank's threats. Unexpectedly, 2 years passed and she's casting her pain and suffering onto me with reckless abandon. Facebook quickly buzzed with this controversy, and I, a supposed international gold medalist, turned into an infamous copycat thief. Within no time, my name was dragged through the mud on the internet. It wasn't achievement, it was theft. With the auction looming, this scandal was sure to tank the game's price and reputation. Right then, the auction price on our webpage had already halved. More netizens complained to the competition authority, demanding they retract my award. My assistant anxiously showed me a tablet. We can still cancel the auction now. Tapping on my rehabilitated but still aching right leg, I looked out at the Paris dawn, retrieved the 2-year-old cloud backup source files. Proving it's not hard, but combing through heaps of drafts and existing source files, and assembling explanations to verify their authenticity. Who knows how long that'll take, how much damage it'll cause. I might spend the whole night and still not manage, potentially losing my X Mysteries auction eligibility. Just as I braced for the headache, ready to dive into fixing this, the conference room door burst open. Monica. Quick, check the live stream. It's Frank. I snapped open my laptop, and there he was, on a hospital bed, gaunt and pallid in a hospital gown. There was a saline drip in his hand, electrodes on his chest for monitoring heart activity, and the imperfectly healed knife wounds visible at the gown's neckline, his fresh self-harm. These are Emma's design drafts from 2019 to 2021. He held up a thick, yellowing stack of papers. At 2 a.m. on November 3, 2019, Emma texted me from the library. The beast's eyes should have the tears of rebirth. Frank activated a voice recorder. My voice mingled with the hum of the coffee machine as I said, Frank, the prototype maze in Chapter 3 was inspired by a mythical palace. Monica, check Facebook. Hearing that, I opened Facebook and found Frank had posted several videos. They showed a ton of manuscripts, design documents, programming records, and even Git version records of all my designs, down to the millisecond. All those posts pointed to one fact: X Mystery was my original work, not Vivian's. I had been part of the game development at some point, and I could confirm that every creative idea came from Emma. For Vivian's actions, I'm seriously considering taking legal action to protect Emma's rights. Public opinion did a complete 180. Vivian thought she could take me down this time, but she didn't expect Frank to step up and testify for me. She had to delete her posts and issue a half-hearted apology. Her family business took a hit from the scandal, with partners pulling out. Social media was flooded with criticism and nasty accusations against her. At the end of the live stream, Frank, with a steely expression, managed to smile. Hope everyone checks out the auction for Emma's X Mystery game tomorrow. Emma, hope I can make up at least a little bit. Hearing those words through the static, I was silent, my mind all over the place. The game auction price on the official website shot back up, even surpassing previous levels. At the auction, Frank was in a wheelchair, just like when I first arrived in France. A coworker joked, Frank won't bid on Monica's X Mystery 2, will he? Many people were at the auction, and the prices kept climbing. But quite a few had to back out when they couldn't offer more. In the end, it was just Frank and a Russian client duking it out. 10.1 million. 11 million. Jack rubbed his face, amazed. We're not even selling the game rights outright. With potential revenue still rolling in, I'm actually living the dream. But man, your ex-fiancé is persistent. Is he trying to win you back or something? I ignored it all, just watching the drama unfold. Ultimately, Frank bought X Mystery for $12 million, nearly matching the combined total for the top 10 games. After the deal was finalized, Frank approached me. Since his leg injury, he'd been overworking for days. He looked pale, his features clouded. Consider this game my gift to you, he said. I've always recognized your talent. You'll definitely shine in the future. I could shift my work focus to France. What do you say? Frank pressed his lips together, looking slightly nervous. I smiled politely and replied, thanks, Frank, for the recognition. Besides work, I'm not interested in anything else. I'm just happy for the windfall. Goodbye. Frank's eyelashes fluttered rapidly, his pale lips coughing up broken dreams as I walked away without hesitation. At the news conference, journalists interviewed me. One curious question popped up. Emma, Frank from the United States bought X Mystery for $12 million. During your plagiarism scandal, he also provided your design drafts as evidence. Do you have a special relationship with him? Are you friends, or maybe more? I hesitated for a second, then casually explained, we were friends in the US, discussing the creation of X Mystery. But that's it, it's all in the past. After the press conference, Frank, supported by a cane and his assistant, approached me. I was discussing the next game design with colleagues and didn't plan to pay him any mind. But suddenly, the roar of an engine came from behind. I turned just in time to see a license plate-less van speeding towards us. Behind the wheel was Vivian, wild hair and haggard features, eyes filled with hate. Monica, watch out. Frank pushed his assistant away, and threw himself forward to push me aside. But with his weak legs, he collapsed, only to be hit by the incoming van. I rushed over to him, finding Frank covered in blood, hard to recognize. Frank, are you okay? Frank managed a weak smile, clutching my hand for the first time since we met again. He coughed up blood, slowly saying, Moonlight, I love you. In the next life, I'll truly, cleanly, love you. With that, his hand went limp. Vivian was sentenced to life for attempted murder, and Frank's family took him back home for burial. After 100 plane accident pranks with Frank, Monica vanished. The one who survived was Emma, living only for herself, her family, and her dreams. I chose to stay in France to work on the next game design. At another international game design competition, I submitted a new piece. I became the first designer to win the gold medal consecutively. A fresh and promising spring awaited.